Gillian Robertson, UFC flyweight, fighting at UFC Kansas City on April 15th. Gillian, happy National Puppy Day.
I did not know that. But
So the reason
oh,
I know that is actually because you have a post from like a year ago pinned on your Instagram with Rob, and I happened to like when I loaded up your Instagram, I clicked on it, and I'm like, March 23rd. I'm like, oh, look at the date. Yeah, it is actually National Puppy Day today.
well, look at that. Happy National Puppy Day.
So give him a big hug. Um, First up, though, I want to go back to December. Didn't get a chance to ask you about this, but obviously, Fury Pro Grappling 6, you go in and you get the big submission over Thug Rose Namajunas. Just what was that moment like for you?
Oh yeah, Rose is definitely someone I've always looked up to ever since I was an amateur. Like she was in the tough house, and I was like just starting my amateur career, and we were both very like ground heavy grapplers back then. And I really looked up to her, and I remember when she was an Invictus, she got that flying armbar, and like it was under a minute. It was just like I always admired her, so to be able to share the stage with her was just absolutely unreal to me. And then obviously, it went better than expected. So I was extremely happy with the results.
What kind of confidence boost is that for you? Because I know it's grappling, not MMA, and in MMA there's more ways to lose, but you also just submitted a UFC champion.
It is, but it isn't because it's two different worlds. I know that no matter what, most girls in the MMA world aren't going to compete with me on the ground. That is my world, and that I think there I show that there are levels to this when it comes to my kind of grappling. But when it comes to with striking and wrestling and just everything into play, it's a completely different world. And I think you got to give Rose her respect there too, where she's made it to the belt where I haven't quite made that yet.
Well, you kind of said it. It is your world on the ground there. When we go back to your last fight in the UFC, the Agapova fight, and she went to the ground and paid for it. What were your thoughts on that win? What did you take away from it? Because that submission pushed you even further forward in that flyweight submissions record and women's submissions record.
Okay, that's my goal constantly, is just to keep on pushing that record forward a little bit by little bit. I'm like, I know Mackenzie Dern's not too far behind me there. I think she has four, so I'm not trying to let any girls get close to me. Any girls catch up. We're trying to get the distance in between us.
Well, I was going to mention that Mackenzie has four, Rousey had three. No women's flyweight has won a title fight by submission before. You're getting close to some pretty cool numbers because the overall submissions record, Charles Oliveira, he's got 10 in lightweight. He's got more overall, of course, but you're really getting up there.
Oh yeah, the Oliveira's honestly always been the goal, is trying to reach. I believe he's at 18.
Yeah, between all the different weight classes, because he was featherweight, yeah, he's way up there.
Yeah, so he's definitely the goal, is trying to achieve something like that. And we're switching weight classes for this next fight, so hopefully we can push it in multiple weight classes like he did too.
So that brings us to Piera Rodriguez, undefeated, 9-0, got a bit of a shine off the contender series. What are your thoughts on this matchup? And like you mentioned, the switching of the weights.
She's definitely had a lot of fights. Obviously, you can't take it away from her. She has an undefeated record, but I don't think she's had a matchup like me yet, or she's been tested by a grappler like me yet. A lot of her matchups tend to be either more strikers or they're just not grapplers of my capabilities. So I think she's going to be in a completely different world when we enter. And a different weight class. So for once, I won't be the smaller fighter. um, I'm used to looking up to all my opponents, so it'll be nice to be in there with someone who's probably around closer to my size.
What led to the change in weights? Is this something you've been thinking about for a bit, or is this the fight that was presented? How did this come together?
It's something that I've been thinking about for a while, I guess. It's always been in my head, always been like outside voices trying to push me to like go back to strawweight, go back to strawweight. You're really a strawweight now. In my last 4 or 5 fights, maybe I've walked at heaviest 130. So it's been an easy cut for me to 125, and I've really like hardly even had to diet. and now going to 115, it's gonna be a big cut for me. I'm definitely 100% strict on my diet, a lot of cardio, changed up that regimen completely, and yeah, doing everything possible to make it my 115 debut in the UFC go as smoothly as possible.
Like you said, you did do strawweight outside the UFC in the past. Comparatively speaking, how much different is it this time around, or is it fairly similar to how you used to approach it?
It's 100% different because when I used to be a strawweight in the past, I was 18, 19, 20 years old. So I was a lot smaller back then. I feel like whenever I got into the UFC, I developed a little bit more, was able to carry a little bit more muscle, and I was walking around probably 145 for a little while. And then now I'm just not lifting as much and just focused on training a lot. And I'm just walking a lot smaller, but still not as small as I used to. So I have the UFC PI working with me this whole camp and just watching me every step to hopefully make this as easy as possible.
Well, I know the PI has been a huge benefit for a lot of fighters, especially their nutritionists and everything. When you approach this fight going to 115, is this kind of a test to see how it goes? Are you committed here long term? What's your thought process on that side?
Yeah, it's definitely more of a test to see how it goes. If I don't feel good at this weight class, then I'm more than happy to go back up to 125. But if I'm doing everything in my power to make this process as smoothly as possible, and hopefully it goes well, and I'll find a new home at 115.
Wow, looking forward to it. Definitely wishing you the best of luck. Now, I know you've been working with the Goat Shed Academy. I saw Hannah Goldie came in as well to work with you for this camp. How is everything been going on that front?
Oh yeah, it's been great at Coach Head. I have Coach Awesome Zaidi there, and then my head coach Dean Thomas comes down a couple times a week and still works with me. Obviously, I had Hannah Goldie out there with me. I'm like, anytime I can get to train with her, I absolutely love it. So I believe this weekend it's coming up with she's competing combat jujitsu on Eddie Bravo's Medusa. If it's not this weekend, then it's next weekend, but it's coming up soon. So that's something to watch out for too.
Definitely. And, talk to me about Hannah because I don't think it twigged for me until I looked at your record recently. You guys are pretty close friends. You had your pro debut against each other. How did the friendship evolve from there?
Oh yeah, so obviously we had our pro debut against each other. I always say I'm like one of the funniest things I can think of about Hannah Goldie is right after our pro fight, I cut her under her eye, and I was with the Superman punch. And after she's like, "You with the Superman punch, you bitch." And I'm like, there's no story I feel like that describes Hannah more than that. But then a couple months later, after that, we started training together, and then now we just cross train all the time. We've been last time when I competed on the combat jiu-jitsu in Mexico, she came out and cornered me. She's cornered me in the UFC, so it's definitely a friendship built through fighting.
And it's pretty cool that you both, from that first pro fight, made it all the way to the UFC too.
Oh yeah, no, I think that's absolutely awesome to see her come up. To see us both be able to come up, it's just awesome to be at this level with a lot of people that I shared the Florida scene with when I was an amateur. I know Cheyenne Blismus and I also had our last amateur fights against each other.
That is very cool. Now, the flyweight division, I want to say the landscape has changed dramatically this month. As of March 4th at UFC 285, Valentina Shevchenko no longer the champ. What were your thoughts on Alexa Grasso's performance?
uh, you can't take anything away from her. She saw the opportunity and she took advantage of it, and it was absolutely beautiful. And I'm so happy for her. And I'm so happy to see a change up in the division too. It's just been so much of Valentina for so long. I do think Valentina was uh did have a very good performance that night otherwise. She was on top of her game, and I feel like she was winning the fight up to that moment, but Alexa really capitalized, and Valentina just made a poor mistake. She shouldn't have been spinning at that time. She shouldn't have been throwing spinning kicks, and got her back taken, which Alexa was waiting for.
And of course, your new home in the strawweight division, a bit of a different scene. I mean, that belt's been a bit of a hot potato for the last couple of years, going from Rose to Whaley to Esparza and back again. Um, I mean, what is your take? Did you just see this kind of more of a land of opportunity at 115?
Oh, 100%. Like you said, for so long, the belt at 25 was just in the same place. Same with 35 and 45. They haven't been taken from Amanda in forever. Well, I guess Pena had her moment, but it got taken right back.
Yeah.
And then, but yeah, 115, it's just been all over the place. And I really think that division, it's going to be all over the place until it really has like that solid competitor that comes up that's well rounded and really can hold that belt.
Well, it's definitely very interesting. Do you have anyone in mind who deserves the next title shot at strawweight? When you look at the field, who do you think Waylay should be fighting next?
I'm trying to think of who's up there right now. I know that I don't know. A lot of the girls that I'm thinking of that are ranked have fought Whaley recently. Um, I'm not really sure of the top of the top of the division at the moment.
Yeah, see, I mean, you've got Rose, of course, in the mix, but of course she's had the fights with
Yeah.
Waylay. You've got Jessica Andrade, who was doing well at strawweight, then went to flyweight, lost to Erin Blanchfield. I don't know how much, to be honest, that hurts her potential title shot at 115, but yeah, it is definitely an interesting scene and a chance to kind of stake your claim, I guess, if you go in and get a few big wins.
Oh yeah, I would love to. After this fight, we're not looking quite up that high yet. Probably looking somewhere between top 15 and top 10 girls. I just want to see who's available. So around my fight date, we're gonna look and determine a name that we want, a name that I'm gonna call out post fight, and I want definitely somebody ranked after this. Not a doubt in my mind.
And I know you've been pretty good about the call outs. I won't ask you to let slip who. But the interesting thing about this card is you're fighting early April, mid-April. We're hearing, and I don't think I'm telling anything too newsworthy here, because I know Aaron from TSN and a few other people have reported this, but we're hearing early June maybe a Canadian card, and the UFC hasn't been here since 2019. Is that too quick of a turnaround if you come out of this relatively unscathed, or would you consider that?
I guess it depends how well this cut goes. But if I do not have too hard of a time making weight, I will 100% go straight back on a diet, like strict. We're going like. There's nothing I would want more than to fight on the Canada card. I haven't fought in front of the Canadian crowd since Edmonton when I TKO'd Sarah Froda, and I've never felt energy like that in a crowd. So it would just be absolutely amazing to be in front of the Canadian crowd once again.
Well, looking forward to having you back. Hopefully it works out. Looking forward to the fight on April 15th, UFC Kansas City. Gillian Robertson, thanks very much for the time as always. Looking forward to it.
Oh, thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Always. Give Rob a pet for me for National Puppy
Of
Day.
course.
Take care.